afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Alyssa Corum here, and I am joined by Justin Nielsen on this Wednesday. We've got a lot to talk about, including the major indexes. But Justin, give us a preview of the stocks that we're going to be checking in on today.
Well, today we're going to be sponsored by the letter B. We've got Beyond Meat, we've got Best Buy, and KE Holdings, which I know does not begin with the letter B, but the symbol does, BEKE.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what matters. All right.
Exactly.
First, a look at the major indexes. Here's a chart of the NASDAQ, which finished down 1.3% for the day. The S&P 500 down about 0.5%. The Dow was able to eke out a gain up about 0.1% for today. So, Justin, some resistance here at the 21-day line for a second session in a row for the NASDAQ.
You're exactly right, Ali. That's the line in the sand that we're looking at right now. And in addition to that 21-day line kind of providing some resistance right now for the NASDAQ, we're also looking at last Thursday's high. That was, September 10th. You draw a line there, and it kind of, we've been in this range, and we could be for a while. And that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, because if you think about it, what that would do is it would potentially make some bases form in a lot of these high-flying leaders that we had that might just need a little break. And so that's, again, not necessarily a bad thing. But right now, until it kind of crosses those levels, we're still being cautious. This is still an uptrend under pressure. Now, the S&P 500 did show a little bit more resilience today. You can kind of see that it's still kind of butting up against an area right above, for the S&P 500, it's 3,400. For SPY, it's just above 340. So you can kind of see it keeps on getting turned away at a very similar area. And, we did have the Fed meeting, kind of wrap up today, and there was really no big surprise there. Still a dovish policy stance from the Fed. They plan on keeping rates low until the end of 2023. And the main thing that they're going to be looking at is raising inflation to their 2% target and taking a good look at unemployment coming back to full employment. And, those two things, a lot of people were kind of wanting maybe some more guidance on asset purchasing, but they basically said, look, we're going to use all the tools that we need to keep this economy going. And right now, there does seem to be some optimism in terms of the recovery.
Yeah, optimism for the recovery, but as you mentioned, the uptrend is still under pressure. That means that our guards are a bit raised, very selective with new buys, making sure you're taking profits, not letting those profits diminish too much, looking at key levels for your individual holdings. But one name that did buck the weakness today was Beyond Meat, which now officially has pattern recognition showing up for its consolidation here, showing a cup base carving at the right side of that with a gain of almost 7% today in heavy volume, and clearing a resistance level that could be considered a buying opportunity for perhaps maybe a little bit more aggressive investors today.
Yeah, exactly. And so keep in mind, with pattern recognition, this is something that MarketSmith has an algorithm that does this calculation. So it's going to be using the computer to kind of come up with these patterns, but there's often, if you've got experience, ways in which you can kind of get alternative entries. We were considering this for Swing Trader yesterday as it was kind of getting up to that 150 level, but the market action was kind of making us a little hesitant to put something on that does tend to be a little bit more volatile. So we didn't do it, but we talked about it on IBD Live today. We talked about it on IBD Live yesterday, and as it was kind of coming through that 150 area, it was looking pretty strong. So that is your kind of alternative entry here. The benefit of getting these alternative entries is that by the time it gets to that 167 previous high, you've already got a lot of cushion. And so that can really change how you handle it. And also, if you've got a good bulk of your position there, you can always add to that position as it gets to that other level.
That's right. And maybe if you're not looking to get super aggressive, looking for more of those traditional buy points, maybe we see it trade tightly from here and form a handle. That might be a possibility as well.
Absolutely. And if it does, then again, as long as it holds relatively tight, you're going to be okay if you bought it. If you didn't buy it, it could absolutely give you another opportunity at a handle level, or eventually if it just finishes carving out that cup.
Well, we'll have to see, but definitely back on our radar after, it did hit a little bit of resistance at this 50-day line, but coming back above that level in recent weeks, putting it back squarely on our radar. We know the story is very strong with this name, and once again, providing an opportunity for investors today with one of those alternate entries. And now let's look at
Yeah, especially with
BEKE.
restaurants opening up again, that could be something that kind of helps them out.
Yeah, a very good point. We know that they're expanding their distribution not only on the grocery store front, but in restaurants as well.
Mhm.
And now let's take a look at BEKE Holdings. Had a big day today, a recent IPO up over 11%. And this was our stock of the day. And there's been a lot of talk, especially today, a lot of IPO buzz, but this is a great example of why you want to wait just a little bit. It doesn't have to be very long, but you don't want to be buying on the first day of trade. You want a little bit of confirmation that things are heading in the right direction first with IPOs.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people were kind of, there was a lot of buzz about
Mhm.
Snowflake today, SNOW, and JFrog, FROG. But what I kind of wanted to point out on this one is that, hey, there is still an appetite for risk here, because a lot of times when the market is very sluggish or, very fearful, you don't see these kind of moves in your IPOs. It's usually kind of the higher risk is kind of shied away from, but we really haven't gotten to the high fear levels in this market. Put call ratio, a lot of the psychological market indicators just aren't really high. So there is definitely some appetite for risk still. And this is something that's kind of interesting. It's in the Chinese market, providing online and offline platforms. For real estate. And you got to consider that here, anyone that's involved in real estate, you're familiar with the MLS listings. In China, they don't kind of have something like that. That's a standardized approach. And so KE Holdings is kind of offering some of that digitization, optimizing and standardizing the real estate market and what is really an underdeveloped market. So they have kind of an edge in doing that. And today, as you mentioned, it broke out above that IPO base at around 55.70. This is something that went on to I'm sorry, 54.70. This is something that went on to leaderboard, and the price that we got in at was around 55.40, and it just kept on going from there. You can see it really zoomed, from there. So again, there was a lot of look at the IPO market today, and KE Holdings was kind of top on a lot of people's list.
That's right. And strong sales growth is something that we
Yes,
like to especially take note of with IPOs. And it's already profitable and strong annual earnings estimates. So, very good to note there as well. And last
definitely
but
read
not
that stock of
least,
the day article. I think Bill Peters did it today, so
yes.
worth
Yeah, our
looking at.
stock of the day, great every day, gives you just that added perspective. I mean, first, we're focusing on stocks that are actionable most of the
Mhm.
time, depending on market conditions. So that's really great. And then we're going over the story as well. So great to note that, Justin. Thank you. And last but not least, in our show brought to you by the letter B, as you mentioned, is Best Buy BBY. What do you like here?
Well, I was seeing a lot of strength in retail lately. There's a lot of names that have kind of caught my eye in the retail space. And what I'm looking at here is that this is kind of a pattern that I'm seeing develop in a lot of stocks. Those that didn't come down to their 50-day moving average lines, the ones that kind of were able to hold kind of around their 21-day moving average lines. That's the green line that you have on your chart there, the MarketSmith chart. And here again, it's kind of like that last week provides a high around 110. It's been trading pretty tight at around that level. If it can kind of break through that, this is something that might get my attention. So it's just something I want to have people kind of looking at, have it on their radar. This isn't a buy right now, but if it does get through that 110 level, this is going to look a little bit more interesting to me. But as we mentioned at the outset, we are still market under pressure, so you do have to be cautious with your buys. Consider this the yellow light, not something where you want to be super aggressive.
That's right. And would this be for a swing trade here, or how are you approaching something like this when you see that those couple of tight days of consolidation?
Yeah, this
A
really
shorter
is
term
more.
entry?
Yeah, this is really more of an aggressive entry, a swing trade, because this isn't long enough to be a base. It didn't quite get down to the 50-day moving average line, so you are kind of using some alternative entries, kind of using some justification here. So it's again not your typical approach, but a lot of times with swing trading, we do kind of narrow into uh, a shorter time frame. And it is interesting to kind of see how it's kind of played very quietly in the last week or so. So again, there is that line of resistance, and if it can cross that, it might look interesting. Again, because there is some strength in some of the retail players
Mhm.
as well. So it's kind of a dual thing
Mhm.
that's going on there.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for putting that idea on our radar and breaking down all the other stock action as well today, Justin. Really appreciate it. And thanks for tuning in. I just want to point out that it is MarketSmith Free Access Week. So
Mhm.
the charts that you saw here, if you have not explored those yet on your own, now is the time to do so. Investors.com/MS free access for all the details. You will also see, if you just go to investors.com, odds are you will see a place to find to get free access. But Justin, a lot of great tools right at your
Yeah.
fingertips with MarketSmith.
Yeah, so in addition to the pattern recognition, which is great, and the charts, which are great. I mean, there's screening tools, there's all sorts of lists, just a lot of ways in which it just makes your job so much easier when you're looking for stocks. I mean, every day on IBD Live, this is the tool that we're using to find stocks, and you can kind of with IBD Live, kind of get a tutorial because again, we're using it all the time. So it's just that powerful. I don't know what we would do without it.
Yeah, I don't either. We, as you can see, all of our analysis right there on the MarketSmith charts, both fundamental and technical and screening, and
Exactly.
really, yeah, taking the guesswork out of the process. It's really great. So we hope you check it out. And speaking of IBD Live, we will be back tomorrow morning where the conversation will continue our in-depth team analysis on both overarching market conditions as well as actionable stocks and portfolio strategies. So we hope you join us over at investors.com/IBD Live. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.